What?
The other windy street on San Francisco? There's two.
Lombard,
Yeah, have you been to the other one?
Probably. What's up?
It's really low key. There's nobody knows about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's on Rhode Island. Check it out. Check it out next time you go to San Francisco.
Oh.
All right. Let's do it. Put away your phones. Focus our attention on Patrick. And Patrick, are you doing a Monroe's motivation?
Monroe's, yeah.
Okay. Appropriate evaluation. Here we go.
Alright. So, since everyone here has chosen to attend school at Cal Poly, we all reside for the most part in the state of California, and that means that for a majority of the year we have to put up with things such as the recent drought that affected us, and any future droughts that will occur in the future. Okay. So, in this speech, I'm going to explain some of the basics of the usage of water in California, and then at the end, I hope that I can persuade you guys that we need to be more aware of our use of water and some conservation methods that we can put in place. Alright, so here on this first slide, Jeffrey Mount and Ellen Hannock of the Public Policy Institute of California put together a graph of the three sectors of water usage in California. So there's the environmental sector, which is rivers and lakes. There's the agriculture, which is irrigation for crops and stuff like that. And then there's the urban sector, which is pretty much everything else. There's residential and businesses and city uses and stuff. And so you can see in the South Coast, between Central Coast and South Coast, there's a really high usage of urban water usage, and that's where we reside. So that would appear to be the place where we'd be able to fix most of our water waste. And they also show that during a wet year, which is above average rainfall, most of the water usage is environmental because the rainfall can water crops and it can help with urban water use. But then in a dry year such as 2001 or the drought that just finished in 2015, it shows that the percentages are really flipped. So the environmental actually gets less, about half is less water, and then agriculture shoots way up, and urban use actually goes up by 5%. So that's actually a lot of water usage, and it's really bad. So this other graphic by, again, Ellen Hannock, but this time Katrine Chappell and their colleagues at the same institute. This is from January 2018. They show the dry years and wet years, as they explained above, but just from the 1900s until now. And you can see that from 2000 till now, there's been a lot of dry years and less wet years. So that means that from the graph I showed you guys before, where the percentages were flipped in a pretty bad way, away from environmental use, that's been what's happening recently for about over half of the years since 2000. Alright. So, to help with this, Lillian Hayden, May Cadenz, and Drenner Haber, in their study, Residential Landscape Aesthetics and Water Conservation Best Management Practices from December 2015, created a study because they wanted to see what would motivate people to change their water usage, and what they hypothesized was that the most motivating factor would be how your gardens or your lawns looked. And it turned out that they made 3 gardens, and of those 3 gardens, there was one that used conservation methods, and it was actually preferred by the people in the study. About 60% of them said they preferred that as opposed to the other 2, which did not use the conservation methods. So that was actually pretty encouraging for them, seeing as people would be willing to use conservation methods simply based on an aesthetic preference. So that'd be easier to motivate them to use it. They also found in that study that of the urban use of water, 50% of that was used residentially, so that's like in houses, and 70% of that water was used just for landscaping, so that's like watering your lawn and stuff like that. And through their conservation methods that they employed in their study, that could be reduced by 33.5%. So, now that we know a little bit about the water usage in California and some ways that people are trying to change that, I am going to propose a solution to you guys, and that is to use drought-resistant lawns. And this seems like the easiest way to change the majority of water usage, since it was 70% of the residential use. And to back up this, there's many companies such as the Pacific Nurseries and Grover Landscaping Services, and the professionals there say that they'll like the lawn, like just the grass part of that. It does actually provide many ecological benefits to the environment around you if you use native plants, and which in California most of them are drought resistant because in Southern California we don't get much water. And so they say that you'll use less water, so it'll save you money, and then also that you'll need to spend less money like reseeding and replanting because the plants will live up to the harsher climate. And so again, based on that, in the two professional opinions of Bonnie L. Grant and Susan Patterson, urban agriculturists, they say that succulents and native plants such as cacti and stuff like that, those are good, but you can also get green and kind of pretty looking plants such as Bermuda grass, which they agree is one of the best grasses to use on your lawn, and it is drought resistant, and it'll it'll do well in this climate. And so in their opinion, that's one way to change it, and so that's one plant that I will show to you guys. So in the future when you're buying houses and you want to make a lawn, maybe think about this one because it'll save you some money. And so after learning about all that, in conclusion, water usage in California is always a problem. So you always have to find ways to cut back on it. And instead of waiting for taxes or people to force you to change how you use your water, such as the tax bill that was talked about earlier in August and reported by the Mercury News, where they would tax drinking water to raise funds to help with other areas of water shortages, then you can just make a pretty lawn and save money and water. So thanks.